All right, we're going to call the meeting to order at 6:36 p.m. First thing we'll do, attendance. Senator Olivala, Senator Bonventura, Senator Kaplash, Senator Chaput-Waller, Senator Chitajulu, Senator Chidibagu, Senator Contreras, Senator Douglas, Senator Earl, Senator Fernando, Senator Fodder-Waller, Senator Glassell, Senator Hassan, Senator Karwowski, Senator Knight, Senator Lau, Senator Mima, Senator Moore, Senator McCormick, I skipped you. Senator O'Connor, Senator Odell, Senator Pratt, Senator Ryakota, Senator Reynolds, here. Senator Thacker, Senator Tiberio, here. Senator Wurstel, Senator Ortina, here. Senator Zansowitz, here. Senator Zan. Not called to roll the governing board. Student Development Chair, Student Services Chair, Academic Affairs Chair, External Affairs Chair, Presidential Chief of Staff, VP Chief of Staff, Public Relations Director, here, Executive Advocacy Consultant, Chief Justice, Comptroller, Vice President, and President. All right, seeing as we have quorum, we will now move into public comment. Are there any people who would like to speak for public comment? No. We ask that if you are speaking, okay, this works. If you are speaking for public comment, you say your name so our minute taker can record it down. Is the mic on? Oh. There's a switch on.
Hello? Okay. Hello. I'm Carl Renato. I'm the Concord Student State Board Chair, and I'm here to talk about the joint resolution regarding extracurricular promotion in classrooms. I think that students should have the right to be able to go to classrooms and give the announcements that they choose, and also for professors to be able to kind of decide if they want, the announcement in class or not. I don't think that this government has the jurisdiction to do that in the classrooms. I think it's the professor's decision to decide if they want something to be in the classroom or not. They decide how they want to do their class time, and students can decide whether or not they want to do the class announcement or not. And even if students are in the classroom, they can choose to ignore an announcement or, listen to one or not. So that's kind of all I had to say. Thank you, and I urge you to vote no on the legislation.
You can just leave it up there. It's better than it's not. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would care to speak in public comment?
Hello, everybody. I know most of you, but for those of you that don't know me, my name is Walter Dodson, and I'm the chapter chair of UConcord. And I am here to encourage you all to vote no on a joint resolution regarding the promotion of extracurricular activities in classrooms. A college is a marketplace of ideas. That has been reaffirmed by the Supreme Court many times, but most recently in the University of Wisconsin versus Southward. We're not here just to get grades. We're here to get an education. to become more well-rounded human beings. And professors know this. That's why they tailor their classroom experience to be reflective, not just of the syllabus they're trying to teach or the grades that we're trying to get, but to create members of society who will go forth and not only support the major or the class, but support students and learn. The essence of this legislation is that student groups should not be able to control or dictate what happens in a professor's classroom. Yet the legislation will dictate and control what a professor does in the classroom. It's antithetical to itself. And this hurts not just student groups that use this tactic, but the university and other groups. I know that the vice president here has used this tactic herself to support this student organization. And for those of you that were here a year ago, when the university was under $300 million worth of cuts to our fiscal future, we spoke to over 4,000 students in class raps class announcements, in order to get them to call their state legislators to support this university, to support us. So I urge you to vote no on this piece of legislation. I will be in the back the whole time. If any of you have any questions, comments, stuff like that, I'd love to speak to all of you. But once again, I urge you to vote no on this piece of legislation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, President Dodson. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in public comment? Seeing no more public comment, we will now move into approval of the minutes. The item on the agenda for us to consider is a motion to approve the minutes from 10/17/2018. Do I have a motion? Motion goes to Tiberio, second goes to Knight. Is there any discussion on the minutes? There are more.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to amend.
What do you, which paper?
On the top of page 7, item 24, I would like to change the word "we" to Chairman Carroll. In the context, I was saying that Chairman Carroll could take the amendment as friendly, not "we" as the Senate. So in order to clarify that, again, I would like to change the word "we" to Chairman Carroll. Thank you.
Is there a second to that amendment? Second goes to Senator Mima. Discussion's already been had. We take the amendment as friendly because we're the ones that are proposing it. So it is so adopted. Now we'll move back into the consideration of the minutes as a whole. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we will move into a vote on the minutes from 10/17/2018. All those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries. We'll now move into reports. First up on the reporting list is student development. Student development chair was unable to be here today, but she sent me a brief report encompassing all that she is doing. She says that her report is mostly the same as last week. She'll be meeting with the Office of Diversity and Inclusivity tomorrow morning in regards to the campus climate survey, and otherwise they're just going to continue working towards their mission statement. She urges all of you, if you can make it, come to her meetings Thursdays from 5 to 6. Obviously there can be no questions as the chair is not. Next we'll move into the report of the student services chair. Again, the student services chair was unfortunately not able to be here, but he did send me a report. So, happy Halloween, everyone. Student services has been opening up dialogue with many faculty members on various initiatives in the past week. For mental health initiatives, Dennis and I have been meeting with Dr. Krakow frequently to discuss more data collecting in order to make evidence-based approaches to address mental health on campus. We are also potentially revisiting the Operation Husky Owl peer support system initiative that I prepared early in the semester and adjusting it to become an in-person peer support research, that dialogue is still in the elementary stages. Next, I will be meeting with Deputy Chief Renshaw of Yukon Fire tomorrow to set up a mental health first aid certification for firemen in EMS. We hope to build a collaborative relationship with Yukon Fire through this initiative and promote public safety. I'll also be meeting with Cynthia Costanzo, Director of Yukon Recreation tomorrow, to talk about new recreation center. Hope to invite her to our next committee meeting to talk about the logistics and timeline for the new recreation center and answer any questions committee members may have regarding new facilities. Finally, me and another committee member will likely be meeting the faculty representatives from Wellness and Prevention Services as well as Res Life this Friday in order to start a discussing a public health education initiative to post sex education flyers in bathroom stalls and laminated testicular and breast cancer informational flyers in showers. This is best regards. His name. Obviously there can be no questions as he is not here. Next we will move into the report of the Academic Affairs Chair.
Hey everyone, hope you got real spooky today. So quick reports. This past week we approved funding for our water bottles, so finals care packages, and picked out the bottles. So if you guys are ever in the office, I plan on bringing it and kind of just leaving it in there so if you want to take a look at what it's going to look like. And we've been working on that mostly in the past couple of weeks. And then next week, Dr. McGuire from the Department of Undergraduate Research is going to be coming to our committee to host a discussion about not only getting feedback about the website and other resources that the Office of Undergraduate Research has to offer, but also what we as students would like to see. So it's really looking forward to having that discussion because I know that's something that a lot of students are interested in and want to get involved with. And then the following week, we're going to have Dr. Katrina Higgins come to our meeting again, and that's again to discuss the advising survey. So as of right now, that's kind of going to be on pause for this semester because we want to be able to tweak it and really perfect it before sending it out again. So Dr. Higgins has a lot of things for us to discuss in that meeting. So please feel free to come out and we meet every Tuesday from 5 to 6.
Are there any questions for the Academic Affairs Chair? Seeing none, we will move into the report of the External Affairs Chair.
All right, good evening, everyone, and happy Halloween. Thank you guys for all being here tonight. In External Affairs, it's been pretty quiet lately. We're just leading up to the elections coming in next week. We had the ballot ready party, which was a great success. We gave away a lot of our promotional items, and all of the promotional items we didn't give away were given away at the trick-or-treat in the Union today, so I'm glad that we had the opportunity to get all of that out. But the event overall was a great success. We had people post sticky notes on why they vote on a trifold, so it was a very successful event, and thanks to Kurt for organizing that. It was great that we could have some of our volunteers participate. Also in exec, we talked further about the enrollment and the plans for requiring freshmen to live on campus, which are, and I stress, very preliminary at this point. We will be speaking more with John Armstrong, the off-campus student services representative, and Nathan First, the director or vice president of enrollment, when that issue comes about. But right now we're in a big transition period to more community service events at the end of the semester, especially for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We talked about some ideas the committee had to, show our commitment to the community when that time comes around. We're also looking forward to spring semester events. I know yearly we have the testifying at the state capitol, which we'll be working with the vice chair for state affairs on. Also our government reception later in the spring. But as of right now, we're just transitioning into those events for the end of this semester, and we'll also be looking to do something to get out the vote next Tuesday to share information and perhaps a flyer vote and how to vote and when they can vote. But that's the gist of what we're doing right now. I know also we talked with Senator Fernando in committee about the plastic bag ban that was approved by Mansfield, and how we can bring that to some of our dining halls, dining services, and discuss with other places on campus that have plastic bags to see if we can implement more of the eco-coin programs that the bookstore has implemented. But I'm looking forward to hearing more from her and the great work she's doing, and hopefully we can get that moving along. But I think that's pretty much it for my report, and I will yield.
Are there any questions for the External Affairs Chair? Seeing none, we'll move into the report of the VP Chief of Staff.
Hi everyone, happy Halloween. This week I met with Ahmad along with the rest of the cabinet to narrow down initiatives from our last exec meeting. And I also helped out with the trick or treat today, which went pretty smoothly, and now I'm working on prepping for the holiday party, which is in December.
Are there any questions for the VP Chief of Staff? Seeing none, we'll now move into the report of the Presidential Chief of Staff. Seeing as there is no seeing no report, we'll move into the report of the Chief Justice. Seeing no report, we'll move into the report of the Speaker of the Senate. So, hello everyone, happy Halloween, glad to have you all here. Senate leadership met again this Monday. A very good conversation. We talked about potential senator incentivization, perhaps doing something along the lines of Senator of the Month. We discussed special elections that are, of course, going on. We look forward to swearing in new senators, hopefully by the next meeting. So we look forward to adding a few members to our body. And finally, a few other events. We will, of course, be helping out planning the holiday party and working with the Secret Santa. We want you all involved with that. Definitely about fun. And otherwise, that's been it so far. Anyone have any questions for me? Seeing no questions, we'll move into the report of the comptroller.
Hi everyone, happy Halloween. So nice to see you guys today and for you guys to come out on this very special day. So a little update from me. We're doing the entire funding, the funding system. We're trying to do it all over again. We're trying to get a new system going. And we've been meeting with UITS about once a week now, and it's going to be completely revamped. And this is big because it means that all your constituents are going to have a different way of submitting requests now, including inventory and informational budgets. Excuse me. So the funding requests, the system opens tomorrow for requests for the next semester, so your constituents know, and the informational budget is also due on the 16th of November, and it's opening tomorrow. We are also changing the policies, and we're hoping that it'll be done before Thanksgiving, and that we will have a public comment event at the end of Thanksgiving before winter break for student groups to come in and really give their opinion and their feedback with the policies because they're very affected by them. We're also trying to implement a text messaging system that allows Tier 2 groups to get direct communication from USG, and that's going to be pretty big for us as well because we've had many complaints that USG is not transparent enough, and especially with funding deadlines, a lot of groups miss the deadline. So this will be a very informative way to get them involved. I think that's it. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But anything, I yield back to the chair.
Are there any questions for the comptroller? Seeing none, we'll move into the report of the Vice President.
Hello everyone. I have a couple things to talk about. So first with metanoia, for those of you who were at Senate last time, I did let you guys know that the new metanoia theme has been chosen as well as co-chairs. So the metanoia for the spring semester will be a metanoia on youth activism, and I will be co-chairing it with Professor Chris Beals. He is the director of the American Studies program and a faculty member within English, and we're actually having our next meeting where we're going to be solidifying our steering committee on November 5th from 12 to 1. If there's any students that are interested in being involved in that, that'd be really, really great. We're really going over the framework of how we want that metanoia to go and which activist keynote speakers that we want to come. Various students from the Parkland Initiative have come up, and those are ones that we're very interested in having come to UConn, and we think it'd be really great if we had more student involvement in this measure, so if you're interested, please let me know. As well, most of you guys know that LGL pairs went out this past week, and we are going to be having our kickoff event on November 8th. It should be from 6:30 to 8, and the room is to be determined. I'll let you guys know in the next 2 days. I need to get a response from our room reservation, but put that on your calendars, and that will be an opportunity to meet your LGL, as well as it will be a study party. So there'll be snacks, and they'll be able to study as well. Next is, I sent out an email, in that same email, talking about Secret Santa. So we are going to be having a holiday party on December 5th during your caucus time. And if you're interested in taking part in Secret Santa, please sign your name on that. I think I put a deadline on the first week of November. Just refer back to that email. Trick or Treat Street, I know Cindy already talked about that. That went really, really well. Thank you everyone who helped out. Thank you specifically to Damon. Is he here? Oh, hello. You were incredible, and I told you this, but no, can everyone just give him a round of applause? He was literally helping out for hours, and he only signed up for an hour, and it was to the point where the staff, all of the full staff that came up to me, they're like, honestly, this kid is amazing, he's always in here helping out. So that's the type of thing that we want to see in USG, and thank you so much for doing that. You saved all of our lives, and it went really, really well. We actually gave out all of our t-shirts, so that was incredible, and it was an opportunity for a lot of people to hear about USG, and I heard some people that are interested in running, so that's what we like to see. Also, with your environmental letter. So for those of you who know, may not know, the governing board signed off on a co-signed letter with other environmental leaders on campus to try to persuade the President's Search Committee to make sure that they choose a president that is environmentally conscious and has a framework and track record of environmental activism and just a mindset. And at our meeting for the President's Search, what was it called? The Presidential Search Forum, that was something that multiple students came up and talked about, and that letter has actually gone up to the Board of Trustees. And that's huge, and so thank you to the governing board for signing off on that, and thank you for other members of USG that have been supportive of that. Lastly, the President's Council on Race and Diversity met last week, and Omar, I don't know if you talked about that earlier. When you report, you can talk about that. And essentially, and Evelyn was there as well, and this committee is currently working on making a module for incoming students regarding race and diversity and making sure that they have a framework to go off of as when they come into university and understand that they're in a new environment with different people from different backgrounds and giving them an introduction to that kind of stuff. So once we get into the next steps, we'll be able to update you guys on how that's going to look like, who that's going to impact, and the next steps on that. So that's it for me.
Any questions for the Vice President? Seeing none, we'll move into the report of the President.
Hello everyone. So we had a pretty busy week last week and this week. So I was able to meet with the Director of Student Health Services last Friday, Suzanne Orinato, and I got to talk to her a little bit about the initiatives that Student Health Services will be pursuing this year, as well as my own initiatives. And it was a really great conversation. We seem to have the same vision on health and wellness integrated with academics, which is really great, since that's something that I wanted to work on since being able to be in this role. So I'm really excited to pursue those initiatives. Finally, we're working on really making sure that we're reaching students in the best way possible when it comes to alcohol and other drugs, and making sure that we're creating a climate on campus that is really focused on wellness, and that we're making sure that we're integrating that in everything we do, because that is really important to the students' success here on campus. So I'll be working with her in the next few weeks and having a few meetings in regards to our next steps. And I'm actually meeting with her, Dr. Erer, and our multicultural diversity senator, Akshaya Chinababu, to talk about a collaboration between USG and Student Health Services on the flu. So we're trying to see if we can start an initiative to really promote wellness and making sure that we're getting students aware of getting flu shots and things like that. We really want to see how USG can collaborate with them and really amplify that message. I'm really excited about that, and I'll keep you guys updated on that next week. Tomorrow I'll be meeting with the interim Chief Diversity Officer, Dana Wilder, to talk about his initiatives for this year, finally introduce myself and talk about how we can really make a diverse and inclusive climate on campus. I'm really excited to meet with him. Next week is University Senate, and I know we have a few senators, University Senate senators here, so I'll be excited to attend that and see what's been going on. I know specifically they'll be focusing on the environmental literacy general education requirement that Wawa worked on about a year or two ago. We're finally getting ready to implement that and work on approving that, which is really, really great. And today we had a meeting with the Cultural Center directors to talk about ways that USG can work with the cultural centers to really create a diverse and inclusive campus. And we want to make sure that going forward, we are, as a Senate body and as leaders, we are working with them and collaborating with them, and just having a clear conversation with them so we know what they're doing on their end and they know what we're doing on our end. So I'm really excited to really get that conversation going within the next few weeks, and this should be fun. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Seeing no questions for the President, we'll move into the report of the Public Relations Director.
I have many things, I'm so sorry. So, the Nutmeg Publishing is still working on their Tier 3 magazine, Tier 3 Features magazine. If any of you have any photos of you hanging out with other individuals from USG, obviously within university standards and expectations, please email me photos to the public relations email. You hanging out with friends, getting food, doing stuff in the USG office. Any kind of photo is a good photo, and I've been asking for it for a while, but this is the last push I'm gonna do because I have a deadline. I'm also the magazine manager for the yearbook, so I need to put out this magazine, but I want to create a collage where we can represent how we have lives outside of USG, which is something I would like to show people because sometimes they don't think we do. So please email me photos of that. I'm going to be attending the Transportation Committee or Advisory Committee that's going to be meeting on Monday. So parking and transportation services, the conversation has died down a little bit in the public sphere, but it has not died down in my sphere. Yay. There's an honors student who is doing their honors thesis on revising the bus routes. So we have educated individuals working on it. He's also working with a transportation engineer who's a professor at this university. So these are things that we're working on, at least with regards to working in transportation. Like Wal mentioned, or maybe it was Anna that mentioned it. Maybe they both mentioned it. Presidential search forum was today. We had an all-right turnout, and people came out and voiced their opinions on what they would like to see in a president the Board of Trustees is going to select. So, yeah, that's cool. Yay. So, another thing, you all got an email from Speaker Crow, detailing that you should be inviting your friends to apply for positions within USG. So, you all have the election packets. You should be letting your friends that you think are qualified for positions within USG, you should be letting them know that there are open positions and they should be running for these positions. We have a really, really empty, or the Senate is not filled as it should be, and we can't get people that are going to be competent and able to do their job without you all doing some of that legwork on your own and talking to your friends, because I can't talk to all of your friends. I can share and post on buy or sell and whatever a million times, but until somebody makes a point of contact and conversation, nobody's going to run for a position. Following up with that, elections are going to be next Tuesday to next Thursday, so I urge you all to vote both in the midterm elections, but also in USG's elections, and inform your friends to vote in those elections as well. I'm going to be sending out a graphic to the USG listserv, you should all get it, that I would hopefully ask that you all share on your social media. I'm not able to mandate you do that, but please share your headshot or share the graphic that I'm going to send you and promote the elections that we'll be having next week, because we want students to vote. I'm assuming we're going to have some voters just in alignment with the fact that the midterm elections are on that same day, but that being said, please talk to your friends and make sure that they vote. Also, I've been working with Priyanka, with Comptroller Thakar, with Senator Thakar, and Parliamentarian Contreras. Wow, these are difficult things to, yeah. And Student Services Chairman Pam. Oh my God. We're working on tampon time branding. Cool. I'm just gonna, these are names are so. So, lastly, I'm starting an initiative next week where I'm going to start emailing everybody and asking for member people that want to be featured on our Instagram and Facebook. I'm not probably not the Instagram, but who knows. I want to share photos of all the senators that we have headshots of and tag them in it so that you can have your family, friends, and your friends like our page. So just expect an email about that next week. I'm going to be asking if anybody wants to be shared on that website, or on the social media, that you give me a short bio of yourself. Also vote. Vote, I swear to God. I mean, I can say that. I swear to, yeah, vote.
Any questions for the Public Relations Director? Senator Rosina?
When are deadline, or when's the deadline for packet submissions?
Deadline for packet submissions is Friday at noon.
Are there any other questions for the Public Relations Director? Seeing none, we're going to move back into the report of the Chief Justice. Let's see this guy. Seems to be dressed like an average college student today.
Okay. Oh wow, I wrote down my report and then I forgot to pick it up. Great. Okay. So the judiciary heard an appeal last Friday with Comptroller Thakar. Also, you're going to see upcoming appointments in the judicial sphere. Goal is to try and kind of grow the judicial leaders of the future, if you will. Elections. Speaker Crow, PR Director Tawe, and EOC Chair Carroll and I met with Krista O'Brien from Student Activities to finalize the advertising plan. Yeah, there we go. The advertising plan and the deadlines for the election. Packets are due Friday at noon. The election is going to happen. It's going to be co-located with the student trustee election, so that will occur from November 6th through November 8th at vote.uconn.edu. Make sure you plug that to all your friends. They don't have to run, but at the very least, they should be voting. That's pretty much all I've got, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Chief Justice?
I just want to clarify that the trustee election are at the same time as the
Yes, they are.
special election.
Yes.
8 and 9 times 6
Oh, no.
They're all at the same time.
Yeah.
Sorry, can
Yeah, I will yield to.
Elections are happening both for special election and trustee election. On Tuesday at noon they open and they close Thursday at noon.
Yeah, that's the 6th through the 8th of November.
I can confirm that's the information we received from student activities.
Yeah.
That's not just we have a question from Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chief Justice, you mentioned in your report that you heard an appeal. Were the minutes to that appeal posted? If so,
Yes, and a decision letter has been rendered to bookkeeping staff. I can try and see if that's on the minutes drive or somewhere else, if you want to see. It was the Pre-Veterinarian Society asking for funding for a banquet that they're holding, and the appeal was denied on the basis that the funding didn't interpret the policies correctly.
Any further questions for the Chief Justice?
Thank you.
Seeing none, we'll move on to reports. And it's old business, which, once again, there is none of. So we will move into new business.
procedure, is there a way for us to be
I was actually going to address a few things. One, I think the agenda item I will first move up is, I can do that either by unanimous consent or the body can vote on it. I was first going to move up the approval of ex officio senators. I think it's important we get them into the body, and then we can certainly move that. But before we do all of that, I just want to make some comments on a few new restrictions we'll be imposing upon debate. That sounds really bad, but all it's going to be is, you ever been to any sort of official debate? There's usually a time limit to how long you can stand up and talk. That's what we'll be doing now. If you come up to speak, you'll have 2 minutes worth of time, unless you are an author of a bill or the one motioning a main motion, you'll have 5 minutes. Everyone will get to speak a total of 2 times at my discretion to change. But we want to prioritize new voices in the body and new opinions over hearing the same people arguing back and forth. So going forward, that will be the way that there is. Are there any questions on that?
Will there be any total time limit per agenda item?
That is either A, up to the discretion of the body, or me, up to the discretion of me, although the body can always appeal that. I have no plans to set one this evening, unless the debate gets very long, but I think that the individual restrictions on time combined with the amount that people can only stand up twice will have a de facto limiting on the total. Just want to make sure we get to all the business and hear all the points precisely and succinctly. So, all right, well, with that, I'm going to move by unanimous consent to consider agenda item D first. This item is a motion concerning nominees of ex officio senators. Is there any objection to me moving this to the first item on the agenda? Seeing none, it is so ruled. All right, now we're asked to consider nominations of ex officio senators. Do we have a motion? Motion goes to Nenadal, second goes to Lima. All right, now we'll move into discussion, and I will yield to the president so she may present the nominees.
Hi everyone. So we're finally going to be able to nominate ex officio seats, and right now I have 4 candidates, and these are therefore the following seats: UConn PERG, the International Student Advisory Board, the African American Cultural Center, and the Veteran Oasis Center. So I had sent out a call for ex officio seats about 2 weeks ago, and I sent them to about 10 or so organizations, and so far these are the people who replied back with their nominees, or their representatives. So first will be for Justin Kaiser, I hope I pronounced that correctly, from UConn PERG. Next is Lynn Ho from the International Student Advisory Board. Next is Allison Derry from the African American Cultural Center, and then Tim Tran from the Veteran Oasis Center. So they all sent in letters of intent, and they're all really great and very qualified. I'm very excited to have them, to have this representation here in our student Senate body, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the great work that they do in the next few months.
Before we get any more discussion, would all the nominees please stand? Do all of you accept the nominations? Say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And you accept on behalf of the asses. You actually should remain standing for a moment. Is there any other discussion? Questions from the nominees?
Might we have each of the nominees just give a very brief statement on what they'd like to do in this position?
Indeed. Would each of the nominees mind to say I'm speaking on behalf? Veterans Oasis Center. Tell us.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I've been Air Force vet for 3 years and currently serving as National Guard with Massachusetts and National Guard for 4 years now. My main motivations to file this decision is that the veteran community here has been very great support to me as far as resources and help me integrate from my military life back into civilian life, and go to school as a full-time student, so it's nice to have people that have been serving within or services to help me with this transition. So I'm here to be the voice, the ears of the veteran community student on campus, and hopefully I can put them out with the information and be the better person.
That's very nice, thank you. For future reference, everybody should come up to the mic if you get the chance, just because some people project that. That's exactly, you can just say something on like why you decided to apply for this position, or why you came up to this, so, do you care? Yeah, if you don't mind.
So my name's Allison Derry, and I'm a representative for the African American Cultural Center. So basically that's a place for African Americans to come and hang out and, relax. And so I just wanted to make sure that I can represent them and make sure that they get everything and be their voice also.
Thank you. The per ex officio?
Hey everybody, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin. I'm now in my second year in UConn. I've done a variety of roles. I currently serve on the state board as the legislative director. I have been the campaign coordinator for 2 wonderful campaigns, and I have worked on 2 other wonderful campaigns. And I look forward to doing more work with this body. If there's one thing I've learned in the last couple of years, it's that nothing great happens alone. Our organization's separate can do great things, but together we can do better things, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you to work on that. And yeah, thank you.
So, are there any further points of discussions, questions for nominees? All right. Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Just to clarify, this does require 2/3 majority to pass, and we're confirming all the nominees at once with this motion. All right. All those in favor of confirming the nominees ex officio senator, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, motion carries. Congratulations. Just to take a quick moment to introduce the concept of ex officio senators to both those that have received it and, of course, the general body. Ex officio senators have speaking rights, but not voting rights, so they are guaranteed to be able to come up to the podium and debate for just as long as any of you are. But at the same time, they're also not required to hold office hours or go to committees, but we do, of course, welcome them to do so if you'd like to. All right, so now we will move into. No, they're nominees, but there's no ex officio specified. Good point of information. So now I'm going to move unanimously, if there is no objections, to move consideration of a joint resolution regarding extracurricular promotion. Are there any objections to me moving this to the next item on the agenda? Seeing none, it is so moved. So now, we are asked to consider a joint resolution regarding extracurricular activity, or extracurricular promotion in classes. Is there a motion for this item? Motion goes to Tiberio, second goes to Reynolds. So I will now yield 5 minutes to the author of the bill so I may speak on its behalf. Senator Woodson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So thank you all for coming out tonight. I know it's a lot to ask of you all, especially Q4 and USG, to come out on Halloween, spooky night. So thank you for that, and I'm glad to see that you all share such a passion for this resolution, and I'm looking forward to this discussion. But I'm actually going to open up the floor. I'm going to take a 5 minutes. I'll open up the floor to any concerns, thoughts, or amendments we'd like to make to this piece of legislation, because I think there's a couple that need to be made before we vote on this. So I'm going to give us some time.
All right. Who would like to speak on this? Hang on, who would like to speak on this? Senator Zanowitz. All right. Comptroller Tucker.
So I just wanted to get the backstory of why the authors chose to write this and any background and contact information, just so the voting members really know the backstory and how this came about. Thank you. You go back to the chair.
So I don't think that this is a good idea to limit any freedom of speech issues, but if the chair would allow it, I'd like to yield my time to former Senator Moyle, because I feel like he's more of an expert in the field of extracurricular academic promotion.
I will allow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hello, everybody. So I read through this bill and go through a few of the clauses that currently exist in it. So this one whereas clause, historically, extracurricular organizations have utilized designated class time in classrooms for their own interests and initiatives. That's essentially applying propaganda, that organizations are going into classrooms to basically promote their own agenda. Basically implying that any student has taken initiative on any information they've ever received during class announcement has basically been falling subject to said propaganda by these organizations who are just pushing their own interests and initiatives. I myself have gone and given a number of class raps, including to get people registered to vote. Never, in going to give a class rap did I ever say that I was doing it for myself or I was doing it for my own interests. To register students to vote in a class announcement that was approved by a professor who has decided to designate their class time as a tenured member of the faculty to allow students to be registered to vote so they may be civically engaged completely disproves this whereas clause, whereas the utilization of scheduled class time in classrooms for non-curricular purposes is an encroachment on students' rights. I would argue that it's actually an enrichment of students' rights, and to call it that is kind of disrespectful to say that registering students to vote is an encroachment on their rights. And to tell tenured faculty how to spend their class time, how could you do that? I would argue that that itself in this legislation is against the advocacy goal of this body and this organization as a whole. And I would like to conclude this saying that these class announcements are done by students like myself and my peers who are your constituents. Are you really going to send the message to them to say that they don't have the right to freedom of speech and their ability to exercise it on this campus? This resolution is against the advocacy goal of the body. It is undemocratic.
Senator Gamora, Senator Stanzowitz' time has expired.
Okay, I yield my time.
Senator Denendal.
I'd just like to point out that most of UConn's professors are doctoral degree holding industry leaders in their field. I'm not sure if we have a lot of undergraduates here or something, or maybe you haven't reached the point where your professors are, very well educated, very professional, and very respectful to their students' interests and very educational. And oftentimes I find that professors have guest speakers, or they just altogether have what's the word I'm looking for? Have a unique class every once in a while, a couple times a semester, maybe a movie, etc., to educate students differently than just a normal lecture. And I think that it would be almost disrespectful to these professors to not give a reason for policing how they go about their own classroom lectures and what they do in their lectures. So I'd like to know, if I may, Mr. Speaker, why the author wrote this bill and what issues were pertinent to this being written.
If you yield to me, we can go for a minute. Other points of discussion? Worst.
Thank you. I believe this sets a very dangerous precedent when this body recommends to administration or to teachers how they should teach their class, And I believe it is no reason that the undergraduates, if they do not like or do not like the organization that is promoting things that they are uncomfortable with or dislike, there is no reason for this organization to pass legislation that goes against that. It is a teacher's ability, based on the university, from the university and from the students. The contract between a student and a teacher involves the ability of a teacher to be able to teach or bring in education from outside of his or her or their classroom. And this legislation directly infringes on the ability of a teacher to do that, and that is why I believe the reason of I don't want to sit in a class and go through a small lecture, 5 to 10 minute lecture. That is not a decent enough reason for us to restrict the ability of a teacher to teach their students. And many of the opportunities afforded to a student from these mini lectures are equally valuable, at least in the perspective of the teacher, than anything else. And I think it'd be irresponsible from this committee, from the Senate, to approve this, and I think the undergraduate students as a whole do not feel strongly enough in this matter for it possibly to be worth a yes vote on this directive. And I commend PIRG, and as well as the other organizations that are affected, because of course it's not just PIRG, other organizations that go in and speak to these students, who teach them valuable lessons that each one of us need to know, specifically regarding civic engagement. Thank you very much.
Next on the speakers list is Senator O'Connor. Speaker, we have a motion to amend. The motion to amend.
Do I go first?
No, the motion goes first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to amend the last line, the therefore be it resolved section. I would like to replace the word restricting in the third line with regulating. I don't believe that the intent of this legislation was to be punitive, and I feel that regulating is a better word to describe than restricting. I yield my time. Thank you.
Is there a second to this motion? Second goes to Glassman. Is there a discussion on this motion? Relations Director Dodd.
I just want to make a couple comments. First of all, after I finish speaking, I would like to call upon the writers of this bill to legislative piece to explain their reasoning behind this piece of legislation, because at this current moment, I don't understand why this piece of legislation ever came to fruition, and that's not a critical note of them, but I want to learn, and then maybe we can have some discussion on maybe how we can navigate this situation differently. But at least with the current situation current legislation that we're discussing, even with the amendment to have the word regulate instead of restrict, I still think that there is no real place for USG to be dictating what is happening in classrooms or what professors are doing with their classrooms. And to reiterate what Senator Wessler,
just make sure that what you're talking about is germane to the amendment, not the bill as a whole.
Yeah.
I just want to.
That's what I said to his.
Yeah.
Sorry, I apologize. With regards to changing the word from restrict to regulate, it still is creating the same exact notion that was there beforehand. We should not be infringing on students or professors' rights to modify what they can do in their classrooms. And to Senator, actually, you know what? I yield to this.
Any other points of discussion on the amendment? Seeing that.
So do you mind, just for my part of the body, restating the policy about the 2 speakers?
Yes. So the way this will work is that everyone gets, as is now, a maximum of 2 chances to speak. Right? Every individual.
Is this per main motion or per motion?
Depending on certain motions are not debatable, and for those that does not apply.
In the amendment, do you get 2 fresh speaking opportunities?
Yes.
Okay, so per motion.
Yes, per motion.
It's not per session.
Not per session. No. Just for each agenda item in motion, but be aware that if we motion to amend and then move back into consideration of the bill as a whole, and you've already spoken once, that still counts against you. Does that make sense? So just because we consider an amendment does not mean you get to re-up your amount of time you spoke. Yeah.
Are speaking allocations done on a per main motion basis or a per motion basis?
Well, it depends, because on a main motion basis would just be for amendments, but if, or not for amendments, for
Those items, the main.
Yeah, those are the main.
The letters items on your agenda, those are main motions. And motions to amend are not main motions. So, the question I'm asking is, do you get 2 speaking instances per item on the agenda or per motion? Do you get 2 new speaking instances when you go to the motion to amend?
It's per motion. Perhaps I did not articulate.
Okay, so if you spoke once in a main motion, and then you moved to amend and spoke twice, when we exited the motion to amend, you get another speaking motion.
But the motion is the main motion is still exactly the same.
So is it per main motion or is it per motion?
It's per motion. Thank you very much.
Then you do get another, which is, I think, the root of Senator Wood's.
We're in an amendment right now.
That's another motion.
Yes.
I have a motion that.
But wait, hang on. We're an amendment. You can't amend and.
No. It's not about the amendment. I'd like to, I don't know what kind of motion this would be, but to remove the rules that you said about speaking, because choosing people is up to your jurisdiction anyway, so if you feel like someone speaks too much, you can just not call them.
All right, hang on. What rules are you motioning? Are you motioning to spend the limit on the time, or are you motioning to spend the limit on how many times you can stand?
How many times you can say?
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second? Second goes to Zanson. All right. Did you
I think I covered it well.
Yeah. So something I'll state about this is this power is not derived out of thin air. Robert's rules says that the first person who makes a motion or proposed legislation gets 10 minutes to speak. Every person gets a total of 2 times to speak. I believe it's per main motion. Yeah, per main motion. Right. And if you exhaust those, you can no longer speak. It even goes so far as to say that people who have already spoken are you should call on people who haven't spoken yet in comparison to those who have. The reason I want this to be a stated policy is rather than it just being something I decide in my head, like on a whim, it's something that's stated. Like, obviously I'm going to prefer people who haven't spoken over those who have, which is the way it is. But I want it to be stated in policy so you guys understand and know that that's my thought process. So it's not just seeming like I'm going about this.
Okay, so I think if you're already choosing who hasn't spoken already rather than people that have already spoken, that sort of covers it on its own, so I don't think you have to really speak.
More. Chairman motion? Yes.
Maybe in the future, if we want to follow these rules, it'd be helpful to have it written down, like a quick table of examples, just so everyone can
Yes. That's. Yeah, well, Senate leadership will take care of that during our next meeting, and we'll be next week when we have our legislative caucus. We can. Senator Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In regards to the motion, in regards to the motion, I believe that keeping the rules in place is a good idea, if only for the express purpose that that it negates any possible partiality on the part of the chair. So if there's any, I think you know what I'm saying, but the main point is, there's always, the possibility for some bias. I think that by having rules in place for everyone, no matter the motion, I think that we can negate that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield.
I hate to say this, but I don't really want to deviate from the conversation anymore. I think we should focus back on the legislation and the amendment of the more suggested. I think we should stay on topic.
So how about this? Right, I will if you send your motion, or if you all vote down the motion, I will take away I'll remove that restriction for this meeting, and then later we can talk about that and we can come to a decision. What? Yeah, it's been motioned and seconded, so it can't rescind the motion, but if you speak against it.
Everyone vote no on this.
Alright, this does need a 2/3 majority to pass. Alright, so all those in favor of striking the rule, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. Any abstentions? In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it, the motion passed. All right, now, I will now remove that, so no one is limited to how many times they can speak, just in the amount of time that they can. All right. And now we're back to the motion, Senator Moore's motion to amend. Just to refresh everyone's memory, this amendment is to change the restricting to regulating in the therefore clause. Is there a discussion?
I motion to the previous question.
All right, there's a motion to the previous question. Is there a second? Second goes to Cowlish. All right. Moving to a vote. So actually, we talked about this last time, and I did some reading up on it. The way it works is none of the senators can debate the motion because, as you pointed out, that defeats the purpose of moving the previous question. But the speaker can take a moment and elaborate on what the motion is and what you're voting on, so everyone understands. And as that was my primary concern, I'm going to do that now. Just understand that by voting to move to the previous question, you are voting to end debate on. Excuse me. You are motioning to end debate on this. You are moving to end debate on this entirely, and believe all opinions on this have been exhausted. Everyone understands?
Is there a way that we can hear from auditors?
Oh, this is just on the amendment, not on the bill as a whole. All in favor of this amendment, all in favor of motioning to move to the previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries. We'll now move into a vote on the amendment proposed. All those in favor of the amendment changing the restricting to regulating in the therefore clause, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? None at all. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Now we are back to consideration on the bill as a whole. Is there any, we'll go back to the speakers list. Senator O'Connor, I believe you were the one that was up to speak.
Hey guys, yeah, a few quick things, pretty much I'll say real shortly because I feel the same feelings that have been already stated. I believe campus involvement or getting more students in UConn involved on other organizations is very important. And to be honest, a lot of people I know, including myself, were able to get involved on campus, including in the organization PERC, through such class reps or through people going through and talking and attracting people who may be interested in their clubs. Secondly, I also want to say I don't believe professors would be too thrilled if we go in and say who and who cannot go and speak into their classes. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I yield back to the speaker.
Thank you. Next we will move Senator Glasgow, who's next on the speakers list.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I feel that this bill should be brought through. Personally, for me, I haven't had any of these class speakers say anything particularly important to me, and I feel that the class time should be spent focused on the actual class and the coursework in the class. That the time for them to speak and advocate, I feel would be best spent during the 5-10 minutes before the class actually starts. That way they're not actually interfering with the class, and that way, if they do it before or after the class, those who actually want to hear it can stick around and listen, and those who don't, they can leave. And it allows for more time to actually focus on the class work, which for some classes, every second counts. That some classes have an incredibly heavy load and have a lot of information that needs to be covered, so every second matters to the class. I yield, Mr. Speaker.
Next, we will yield to Senator Washington.
So I appreciate everyone's feedback. I really do. I'm a man in the Senate. I'm very interested in trying to perfect this bill to make it as acceptable to all the members of the Senate as possible. And so I'm going to try to address all the points that have been made so far, just to hopefully see some concerns. But before, there's a couple of points I want to make. Is one, we're the undergraduate student government, not the faculty government or whatever the body is. So we're not. Our charge isn't to advocate on behalf of the professors. Two, if you read pretty closely, or if you interpret it correctly, the intent of the bill isn't to ban presentations or class reps in whole. As Senator Glassell pointed out, it's trying to keep it more regulated and more protected or organized in a way so that you can get your point across in appropriate times. And three, as USG, we do not have jurisdiction to modify these policies or enact these sort of policies. We have non-binding legislation we can pass, and that is what is happening here. So the backstory of this is actually, this has been something I've been considering writing for a long time coming. And why it's come to me now is because I think about a week or two ago, there was a class that I was in that had about 300 students in it, in which a student organization came in, the dean of class, and used 15 to 20 minutes of the class for their own purposes. Now, I don't remember what the intent of that was, but regardless, I believe it's an infringement on students' rights. We pay students for the right to art academics. Extracurriculars, by definition, are not within the scope of curriculars or not curriculum. So that's the end of my time. I can speak more on it later, but I'm going to use my time.
All right. Next on the speakers list is Deputy Speaker Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to add, just on top of what Senator Butina just mentioned, USG does not have the power to enact policy over any professor in any condition. Right in the last therefore clause, it says that USG strongly implores the office to look into or to enact policy regulating the use of class time. We do not have the power to enact any policy over professors. What this is asking it's asking administration or informing administration that this is something that has come up in a lot of classes to a lot of students, and we just like them to take a look at it. Like I said before, we're not forcing them to do anything. If the chair would allow it, I would yield the remainder of my time to Senator Butina to finish any further remarks he has.
We have a point of information, Chief Justice Bennett.
Point of information, can the chairperson of the Academic Affairs Committee comment on whether or not this policy was approved in whole in committee or not?
So I'd also like to clarify that as Academic Affairs on behalf of my committee, we agreed to forward this to Senate because we do believe that this is an issue that students do face, that they do take, that presentations do goes deep into class time. At first, I'm not afraid to admit that I was hesitant. You can even ask Josh. I was hesitant to even bring it to Senate because, like a few of you guys did mention it being, like, is it even a big problem? But as my role in academic affairs, the word academic is in the name, right? So my main focus is academics. And so when presentations do run into class time, Josh told us about his experience in 15 to 20 minutes in. And as Senator Glassell mentioned that it can really infringe on your time, and there are classes that every second does count. And I feel that it is kind of wrong in a sense if a student group is going over your class time when you should be learning, and if you are paying for that time. However, I do believe that it's very important that you are still able to hear about student groups alongside of going over your time.
What I was gonna say is, he asked a point of information about if it passed through the committee or not.
Yeah.
If you wanna be added to discussion.
I want to know if this document went before the committee and was voted on in passed.
Yes, it was a 20 votes. No, we had no people against it, 2 abstentions.
That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
If you'd like to be added to discussion, you can raise your hand. Senator Douglas had yielded Senator Ortina for 30 seconds.
So thank you, Deputy Speaker Douglas. So what I was saying before, so the points I wanted to address actually as quick as I can were the backstory. So the backstory, as I mentioned before, is that there was a bunch of students who brought this up with me. It wasn't just me, I know it was a frequent incident that I mentioned. Maybe it's a rare incident, maybe that's the outlier. The fact is that it happened. It's, as I mentioned, it's not fair to students who paid for that sort of time for their education. And so I'm also address the previous speech. I mean, if you're gonna criticize this and call this freedom of speech, then you can also criticize the policies regarding speaking between certain hours Fairfield Way, outside the library. There are some very interesting and active protesters or people who profess out in those ways that are only limited to a certain time. This isn't any different than that. The whole point of this is twofold. To, one, uphold students' rights to receive an education as they pay for and as the times they, during the times they see and choose, as well as to protect the reputation of organizations. A lot of times organizations could, have a bad, leave a bad example for other organizations that isn't fair to others. And I'll wait for more comments, but other than that, I yield.
I accept your yield. Next on the speakers list is Senator Lima.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When Senator Watina first showed me this bill, I was really in favor of it. I think that our class time needs to be protected, and I think that, as people have mentioned, every second does count in some classes. However, in the system we have now, it is actually just up to the professor. The professor, if they think they need all 50 minutes or all 2 hours or all hour and 15 minutes, they can just say, no, like I don't want to have a class rep be given. So as a result, I'd like to strike my name from the sponsors list, and I urge my colleagues to vote no on this bill.
Remember that there's, no snapping during debate, not just from the audience, but from anyone. We want to make sure that debate is only affected by speaking and voting. Next on the list is Senator Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I pretty much just wanted to say that I do not agree with this bill. It's more along the lines of I wanted to address Senator Tina's point of us paying money to go to college here. We do pay money to go to college here, not just to learn, but to also get the most experience of our time here. We don't just go to college to get grades on a transcript. We also go to college to get extracurricular activities, to also build up our resume, to get experiences of a lifetime. During class reps, we have extracurricular presentations where you get the opportunity to build on your experience here at UConn. You don't want to spend 4 years at college just taking classes, and overwhelming yourself with schoolwork. You also want to get involved at UConn. I also wanted to speak to the point that Senator Kaplash is in my genetics lecture, and he did a class rep about getting people to register to vote, and I think he registered half of the class, or 300% lecture to vote midterm elections. We have the worst voter turnout rate for our generation. So for Senator Kaplash to be able to do that is like completely exceptional. So I feel like props should be given. Thank you. I yield my time.
I will say, say before I yield to the next person on the list, want to warn people, be cautious about French frying. French frying is the concept of saying the same thing in different ways over and over again. Not sure, it's up to you to decide whether we've gotten there or not, but if you feel like, if you're sitting there going, oh wow, I think that my point has already been stated, don't drag out debate for that purpose. Make sure that, we want to make sure we have concise debate, and if you feel that everyone's opinions are set on the matter, it may be best to move through or yield your time back. But with that being said, I will yield to Comptroller Doc.
So I personally feel like 5 or 10 minutes before class is just a small compromise to what those 5 or 10 minutes provide the students. And I feel that this is not the best use of Senate time. There's so many more issues that pertain directly to students. All you senators represent the students. We represent the students. What pertains to them? How can we best advocate and voice for them? What does this have to do with their concerns directly? And how are we improving their day-to-day lives? And so that's where I'm coming from. I really urge someone to go to the previous questions. We can vote on this and move on.
Is there a motion? There's a motion to move to the previous question. Is there a second to this motion? A second by Senator Copeland. Now, once again, take a moment to remind you all that we are now motioning to move to end debate on the bill as a whole, which means you now think we should move it to a vote by voting for this. By voting for this, you believe that everything, all debate on the bill has been exhausted, and you think we should move to a vote immediately. Understands that, we can now move into a vote. All those in favor of motioning to the previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. Any abstentions? On the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries. You did call the division, I apologize. In that case, all those in favor of motioning to move to the previous question, please raise your hands. All those opposed? Any abstentions? One from the chair. The vote 15 to 9 to 1, the motion passes. So now we will move into a vote on the bill.
We can't roll call vote on the motion. It's a procedural.
Yeah, but it's not, we're now voting on the bill. So now we move into a vote on the bill as a whole. Just a moment. Somebody raise a point of order and point out that there was not 2/3.
Point of order, not 2/3.
All right, so there was not a 2/3 vote on that amendment, so we can't move to the previous question. It requires 2/3 majority. So we're back into debate. Senator Worsler? If you don't want to speak anymore, you just. Yep. Tawe. This time, Senator Zansolitz. Do you have anything? Is that a motion?
So yeah, if we're gonna stay on this topic, then I think USG, like our comptrollers so kindly told us, should focus on more prevalent issues to us. I think it's our duty to help encourage speech, not demote it. And as some other senators brought up, a tenured professor is going to look at this and laugh either way, so it's our choice if we want to waste our time on this or not. I yield the rest of the time. Thank you.
Senator, Chairperson Reynolds. Deputy Speaker Douglas. Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I have a motion.
What's the motion?
I'd like the motion to wait until on the table, please.
There is now a motion to lay this bill on the table. Is there a second to this motion? What? No, motion to take precedence. Is there a second? Yes.
How long will you get it? Until the next side.
Is there a second to this motion?
Point of order. The floor was 9 items, non-interruptible. Oh.
Actually, point of order, didn't you acknowledge that you were gonna acknowledge his motion?
Yeah, but then I didn't. So, okay. I said that he was going to make a motion, but he specified he wanted to wait until after you had spoken to make the motion. But if it's not interruptible, meaning as soon as I acknowledged him, it became not interruptible. When I said that, yeah, no, that's not. When I said that, it wasn't me saying you will go after. It was like me saying.
I heard a lot of senators expressing the idea that we come here not just for education and to also get great experiences. And I 100% agree that is the sole purpose of coming here is not just to get an education and fill out a transcript and hit 120 credits. But I do think that during certain times, we're paying for certain things. So during 11:15 to 12:15, that's when I pay to learn communications. I don't pay during that time to listen to any group come in and talk about anything. This legislation does not straight up ban class reps. All it does is it asks people to be more conscientious about when they happen and how they happen. I'll yield the remainder of my time to the chair.
Are those motions back there? Or is just like to be on the speakers list? Is that a motion? Motion to the previous question. There is a motion to the previous question. Is there a second to that motion? Second goes to Senator Alaval. Just a reminder that this motion requires 2/3, and which is 16 votes in this case, and that by motion to do this, your motion can end debate on the bill as a whole. That being said, all those in favor of this, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. Any abstentions? The division has been called. We will now move into a hand vote. All those in favor of moving to the previous question, please raise your hand. It's 18-4. All those opposed? 6.
I need to point so would I be able to rescind sponsorship from this?
If the committee's passed it, you can't rescind sponsorship from it. If it was you as the academic affairs chairwoman, you could rescind. Can all those opposed raise their hands again? 6 opposed. Any abstentions? 1 from the chair. Vote of 18 to 6 to 1. The motion passes. So now we will move into a vote on the legislation. All those in... There's been a roll call vote called on the legislation. So now we're going to get out the roll. All right. So remember, when you go to vote, stand up, state aye if you'd like to, if you support it, nay if you don't, and you can say you abstain if you don't. Yes, make sure you say it nice and loud too. We want to hear you. Senator Alaval. Make sure you stand up. Senator Bonaventura.
Nay. Nay.
I have a point of parliamentary procedure. Don't you need to vote on whether or not you want to vote this meeting?
Not for something like a roll call. That's referring to case, yeah.
It says roll call. Specifically.
If you look at the bottom, it says, in USG, a roll call vote is a privileged motion, may be requested by
You're totally right.
Yeah. That's one of those, this is a good case of when, like, our Constitution supersedes Robert's rules. Robert's rules says you need to do that, but our Constitution says this. Senator Koppel.
Nay.
Skip all them. Senator Contreras. I'm going to abstain because I'm the chair. Senator Douglas.
In favor?
Senator Earl. Senator Fernando. Senator Flower-Wallach. Senator Glassland.
Aye.
Senator Sun. Senator Harowski. Senator Knight.
Aye.
Senator Lau.
Nay.
Senator McCormick. Senator Mima. Senator Moore.
Aye.
Senator Mendenhall.
Nay.
Senator O'Connor.
Nay.
Senator Pratt. Senator Ryakota. Senator Reynolds.
Aye.
Senator Thacker. Senator Tiberio.
Nay.
Senator Wursler.
Nay.
Senator Rotina.
Aye.
Senator Zansowitz.
Nay.
In a vote of 7 to 17 to 2, the motion fails. All right, now we'll move into the consideration of a joint resolution regarding attendance-based grading in lectures. Is there a motion for this amendment? Or this motion goes to Tiberio, second goes to Rotina. I will now yield to the author of the bill, Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I begin, I'd like to let all the senators know that there are 2 footnotes in this bill, both directed to links from UConn that state UConn's policy. So the origination for this bill came from an offhanded comment from one of my constituents that we really shouldn't be graded based on attendance. And I wondered if that was true, so I looked up UConn's policy on that. And UConn has a website where they list all of their policies for everything. And on that, it includes a phrase at the top of the page that says, if a student were absent and the instructor reduced the grade, the reduction would be due to a lack of class participation and not the absence. It then occurred to me that certain things for which we are graded constitute attendance grades and not participation grades. So an example of something that constitutes an attendance grade is things like clicker questions in a large lecture. So if you're in a large lecture and you miss the lecture, you automatically don't get points for not attending. I understand that for certain classes that's extra credit, but I've also heard from my constituents that for certain classes that is not extra credit. So this would apply in the non-extra credit scenarios. An example where participation and attendance are the same thing would be like a public speaking discussion. If you're not there, you can't participate. And in that situation, it would make sense that your grade would be lowered due to your failure to demonstrate knowledge or ability in the topic. However, in, say, that chemistry lecture, if you missed class and you were unable to answer those clear questions and so your grade was lowered, that would be an example of an attendance-based grade as opposed to a participation-based grade. With that, I will yield my time to the speaker.
Thank you. Are there anyone else who'd like to speak in discussion on this? You're another author. Yeah, Senator Martinez is another author, so he will speak as well.
So I'm not going to try to add anything else on. I'm kind of just going to summarize what he said. So hopefully this is a little less contentious than the last bill, that base. So I think that basically what this is trying to say, if you haven't read through it, is that, actually no, I'm telling you what it is that there's already policy in place regarding attendance-based grading. And it's currently not enforced. Like, I know I'm personally in, I think, 3 or 4 classes that have attendance, or have grading based on attendance. And so, if you could scroll down to the bottom, please. Yeah, oh, not all the way down, this is the final clause. We're basically urging the appropriate office to enforce the current policy. And I limit my time to the chair.
Senator Bonaventura.
Hey guys, I just want to say real quick that I'm completely in support of this bill because I've had a bunch of classes in the past where attendance has been pretty much mandatory. Clicker questions, the teacher would literally say, like, all right, click in, just click any number so that I know that you're here. And that is basically taking attendance in a class. And ultimately, we're not children in kindergarten anymore, we're college kids. And things are going to come up that may be more beneficial to our college careers instead of going to class for a day. Like for instance, I'm a very busy person on campus, and I feel like sometimes I have to make the choice between doing an event that's going to really benefit my college experience and something I'm going to remember for life, or going to class. And I feel like especially now with the technology where all the notes are online, and so many professors post their PowerPoint slides, I think that it's really, really bad that people still take attendance. I mean, you should go to class because there is a correlation between, class attendance and final grade, but at the same time, it shouldn't be required, and there's no way that professors should penalize you for not showing up. I yield my time.
I'd just like to, before I call on the next person, remind people that if you do want to speak on a piece of legislation, hold your placard sideways, so like I'm turning your chairs, demonstrating now. That way we know that you'd like to speak and are not motioning. Senator Tiberi.
I'm in opposition of this bill, and I will provide 3 reasons why. First, attendance-based grading policies, they provide incentives for students to go to class, and by those students going to class, it will help them succeed in the class itself. This is my second point, is that this is essentially free points. We are students, we are here to learn, and here to go to class. We pay to go to class, and this will only help you grade if you go on a regular basis. And finally, I know the argument may be brought forward that sometimes you can't attend class due to extraneous circumstances, but usually that should only consist of a small minority of the classes missed, and you would still benefit from the majority of classes that you attended. Thank you.
Next on the list is Senator Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As it's been said, I'll keep it brief because a lot of people have mentioned it or close to it. I have been notified by constituents and also my own personal experience. I have a number of classes that enforce attendance, even to the point of a literal sign-in sheet in a 250-person lecture. Excuse me. Yes, I really yield my time. I apologize.
Senator Newman. Chairwoman Yevon.
I just wanted to quickly talk in favor of this bill because I believe that it's very important for students to be able to start developing those skills to figure out if they, to be able to make choices of if they're going to go to class or if not. It should be on them. As Owen mentioned, we are college kids, so you have to start being able to make decisions on your own. And I believe that having attendance in place like that is kind of like, okay, make sure you come to class, like in high school, whereas you have to ask to use the bathroom, you have to ask to do this, you have to ask to do that. So I think it's an important part, obviously aside from the whole other things that go along with attendance that are really not right in my opinion, but the main thing that I really like to focus on, that it's important that students are able to make that decision in order to become adults one day and be able to know right from wrong. That should be on them, not on the professor. So I thank you.
Senator Koplow. Is that a motion or is it like?
No, just, yeah.
Remember, hold it up sideways. So, just like that.
I'd just like to speak in favor of this bill for a couple different reasons and to address a couple previous senators' points against this bill. One of the senators mentioned that extraneous circumstances can come up, and that's fair. They don't come up very often, but for people who are dealing with maybe consistent and severe medical conditions, you can often miss classes that are on Mondays because, the doctor can only have appointments on Mondays. And so when you're missing that class, you're constantly getting your grade lowered, and that's not fair because you're trying to fix yourself, but at the same time, you're dealing with your class grade getting lowered, and people should be penalized twice for trying to help themselves, okay? And then another issue I'd like to bring up is for someone like myself with severe combined ADHD, going to lecture, sure, very helpful for many people, but for myself, I get so ridiculously bored that I literally pass out in almost all of my lectures, to the point where I just started recording lectures, okay? And so to force students to go to class when it literally does not help them, when I could be spending that time doing actual work, working on my multiple initiatives, I think that should be put forth because we're trying to promote learning in all ways, not just the singular type of way of lecture. Okay, and I think that's crucial to the college experience. So thank you very much. I yield my time to the speaker.
Thank you. Next on the list is Senator Glassman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I just wanted to address one of Senator Tiberio's points. So he had stated how this is free points, but if you lose those free points, that hurts your grade. And the time that you spend in a class, such as a class that you're doing fairly well in, you know the material, but you will have an exam coming up. You want to take the time instead of going to a class that you're already prepared for and study and prep yourself for another exam. Now, losing those points, it may not be much, but if you do that a couple of times a semester, that could potentially bring you from an A down to a B, and that could potentially be a serious impact on your overall class standing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield.
Senator Olival.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am in opposition to this bill because a couple points. One, we're taking away choice from the professor again. As a couple other senators have brought up, it is your choice to go to class or not, and it's also your choice to pertain to the, it's your choice to abide by the professor's syllabus or not. If they say attendance is 10% of the grade, or a coming class and participation is 10% of the grade, you have the choice to say, I'm going to come in for 5% of the time and only get this much points, or I'll try only a little bit on this exam to get X amount of points to pass the class. It is, again, your choice to decide if you want to come to class or you don't want to come to class, but I don't think we should take that choice away from the professor. I yield my time.
Next on the speaker's list is Senator Nenadel.
I would like to commend our Deputy Speaker for writing such a great bill here and using references, and also appreciate the ambition of this bill here. I just have a problem with the final clause, if you don't mind just scrolling down a little bit. That therefore be it resolved, USG urges the Office of the Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs and the Office of the Registrar to enforce the de facto grading policies outlined for all courses regarding policies that base student grading on class attendance. First, I'm not sure if I can comprehend that, to be honest with you. And secondly, I think that that's a little too broad for it to have any actual impact once the Provost sees this bill, say we pass it. So I would recommend that the Senate votes to amend the final clause to be specific about which attendance sheets that Professor eye clippers, for example, being used as attendance for grading. And I would like to use my time.
If I could just point to the information just about if one of the authors of this bill could explain how they want the final process.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Senator Nenendel, for that. The final therefore clause is unclear. Actually, the phrase de facto shouldn't be there at all. What the final therefore clause is asking is it's asking the Office of the Registrar, who maintains the academic policies, particularly the one found in the footnote, the Office of the Registrar is responsible for maintaining and enforcing those. The Office of the Provost is the chief academic officer on campus, or the chief academic officer of the university. What I would like the therefore clause to ask is, I would like those two offices to look into class, or to look for classes that violate the attendance policy in the therefore clause, the whereas clause to previous, about what attendance is and is not. Did that answer the question? No, sorry, did I answer the question? Motion to amend.
There is a motion to amend. Go ahead.
I would like to amend the final therefore clause to strike the phrase de facto.
Do you take it? Do you take it as right? Will the sponsors of the bill take this? Okay. I was just making sure that there was. In that case, the amendment is accepted as read. So next on the list is Senator Worstham.
I'm very open-minded about this current resolution, and I commend the authors for identifying a problem posed by the student body. However, I of course would like to add my commentary on this. I believe that this issue also does stem eventually back to our previous discussion regarding the role of a teacher in the educational process. And really this is just essentially asking for, requesting that this office and the Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs to continue to enforce the current laws in place, current policies, where those current policies are currently being interpreted by the teachers. And it is up to the teacher, I believe, to interpret the laws as it reads, because as it reads, it's simply saying against attendance-based grading. But from my understanding, even just a quick quiz in the beginning is still considered participation, because that is a way of participating. So I just wonder how, just reinforcing it, if this body recommends we reintroduce and reinforce this law, it's the same thing. It's not going to be enforced. If it's not being enforced now, it's not going to be enforced after the law's not changing. So I think it would add to the problem. In addition, I think this is comes down to a communication problem. So if you have a medical or extraneous situation which keeps you from being in the class, that stems to a communication, and you're being negatively affected for it, that stems from a communication problem with your professor. Essentially, I believe I think any professor at this university would try their very best to accommodate for medical emergencies and or medical situations or extraneous, unavoidable situations. So I think that's the best way of going about it, rather than the way that's currently being introduced. However, that being said, I believe it may be, I guess it is, I'm glad this is being brought to light. I just question the ability of this specific legislation to tackle that problem. More so, I believe the promotion of it. A promotion of better communication regarding attendance policies would be a better use of our time. But I still appreciate the others from doing this. Thank you.
I have a point of information. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask our deputy speaker to consider whether or not the final clause should instead request a statement from the office of the provost clarifying whether or not use of the eye clickers or use of attendance sheets are indeed being abused as attendance rating policies, because I think that would be more effective in generating an actual outcome from the office of the provost, and I honestly still can't read that final clause.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Senator Roosevelt, for the question. To decide whether or not that was participation or attendance, I turned to Webster actually, and I looked up both definitions, and I did include both definitions in the legislation. Where I feel the difference is drawn between attendance and participation is what participation requires a group. It's to take part in something, to take part in some activity. Whereas attendance requires no more than physically being present. That answers your question?
Point of information.
Is there any, I don't know, is there any express like the definition of participation and or attendance in the law, the current policies of the university? Or that must be interpretation of the teacher?
Those terms are not defined anywhere in the university policy that I can find.
Motion?
This is a question for the writer, Deputy Speaker Douglas. Is the purpose of this legislation to alert the powers referenced in the last statement that the current rules are being broached, as in being broken by teachers? Is that the purpose of this legislation, to bring to light that this is a problem? Is that the purpose?
Yes, that is precisely the purpose.
So, motion?
Point of information. Mr. Speaker, one last time. I have another question for Senator Douglas. I think that in order for this bill to stand on its own legs, because it is a great idea that you had, I believe that we should focus on asking for something tangible for the office of provost to provide us and to provide university with in terms of what is allowed and isn't allowed, rather than saying something that's
No. Is there questions somewhere in here? This is a point of information.
I'm asking whether or not we're trying to get a
Okay,
tangible.
I just want to make all so,
Move to table.
there's a motion to table. Is there a second to this motion? Second goes to Zenson. Yes, please specify.
I would move to table to the next Senate, giving senators an opportunity to speak about this maybe after our legislative caucus next week. If you would be so willing, the legislative coordinator could leave some time at the end of the caucus on Friday to give us an opportunity to revise this piece of legislation to effectively communicate what we're trying to get across.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the motion to table?
I motion to go by unanimous consent on that motion.
I'm going to rule that out of order. I want to give people a chance to vote. Go ahead.
Speak about.
Yeah, on the amendment to on the idea to table. Yes. Yeah, you can.
I commend commend Deputy Speaker Douglas, and I 100% agree with that. We as a body can do we can add many great things to this initiative and better hone in on what is realistic and what is appropriate for this body to pass. And I thank you, Mr. Douglas, for proposing that, tabling it until next caucus, or excuse me, Senate.
Any further discussion on the motion to table? To clarify, this just means we'll be laying it on, we'll be putting it aside for the time being, not voting to pass it or shoot it down, just laying it aside for the time being. Does everyone understand? Seeing no further points of discussion, we'll move into a vote on the motion to table. All those in favor of tabling the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Any abstentions?
Aye.
One from Senator Cox. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Now that I'm going to yield briefly to parliamentarian Contreras so she may make.
Okay, before we go into our next piece of legislation, I just want to make a couple of points. The first one is to reiterate that we don't snap or we clap while discussion is being on a motion or any motion regarding that. Because we don't want to gesture and possibly persuade people. We want to persuade with our words and not with our nods or our claps or anything like that. So please refrain from doing those things until after something is passed or something, then you may clap. But while it's actually being discussed, please don't do anything besides speak if you want to express whatever you may feel. The second thing, before we go into this, is I just want to tell everyone that you should be reading these agenda items for the actual Senate session, because if you read this and then you have certain questions, you can ask the authors of the bill and the sponsors themselves before the actual Senate session. So then we can limit debate, and then we don't have to go into a long string of questions and debate discussions the actual day. So just next Senate and then further Senates, just please read the agenda items before we actually have a session, so that you may reach out if you need to.
So, should kind of discourage debate from having no Senate, or should it happen before Senate?
No, I don't want to discourage any debate. I do think that what we're doing here is great, but I think that a lot of these questions can be answered really easily if someone just read the legislation themselves and then reached out to the sponsor of the bill and was like, hey, what's this thing? What is this word? A word or a certain phrase, or maybe a footnote or something. So these small things can be taken care of easily if people read the legislation thoroughly before the actual Senate session. I don't want to discourage any debate. I do want to hear all of your opinions as well as everyone else. But things like that can be taken care of.
Can you elaborate on what exactly would be voicing your approval or disapproval of a bill? You mentioned nodding right there, but I haven't heard that previously being something that we're trying to stop. So I know I can talk. But I agree that snaps are on a different level. You can tell who and where, but you can tell whether it's the exec doing it, you can tell who's in favor of the bill, and I think that should be banned in the Senate. But I don't see a problem with nodding or maybe smiling.
I'm not banning anything necessarily. I'm just saying please refrain from doing so because it may.
I'm going to actually take this. Basically what it is don't do anything with significant intent or a significant express of passion or emotion that could sway it. If it's just a slight head nod to I agree with that one. That's all right. So now we will move into consideration of a bill concerning an amendment to the USG bylaws. Is there a motion for this? Motion goes to Connor, second goes to Senator Glassell, second goes to Yes. All right. Now you, Senator Kale. So you may speak. Chairman. Yeah.
I think it's listed we tabled that.
We tabled it for the next Senate.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brendan Carroll. I'm the Elections Oversight Committee Chairman. And this bill, which anyone who went to last Senate probably remembers, is to make it so that members who join the Elections Oversight Committee are still able to run for elected positions in the USG after their tenure in the EOC is complete. So I know we have a lot of people who have strong opinions on whether or not we should do this or not, so I just wanted to explain the process of the EOC during an election cycle, just so that all of you understand kind of where conflicts of interest may or may not occur and why you should or should not vote on this bill, based off your own opinions, because as the EOC chairman, I do believe that since most of our positions that we oversee and elect people to are your positions, that you should be the ones that determine this. So, to start off, before the election actually occurs in the USG, the EOC collects the election forms and the petition by peers from all the candidates who send in that information. So I'm the person, or my committee is the person that receives that info, and all of you are. Next, we look over that information and we forward those collected documents. This is after the election pre-period is over, when you can apply to be on the ballot. We look over that information and we forward those collected documents to UConn's Division of Student Affairs to make sure that these people are verified at the university. So they're actually undergraduates and all their information matches up properly. After that, Student Affairs sends those verified results back to the EOC, and Student Affairs puts eligible candidates on the ballot directly. EOC does not have control over the actual ballot. So Student Affairs then certifies those people, puts them on the ballot, notifies us of that information. So during the election and during a brief period after the election's closed, the EOC accepts election policy violations that candidates or other undergraduates might make, and then sends those collected details to the judiciary for an actual ruling. So although the EOC collects all that information, we make a recommendation to the judiciary makes the ultimate decision. Additionally, although the EOC can elect to not send violations to the judiciary can elect to overrule and hear the case regardless. So that's another check of the EOC's power. After the election data is examined by Student Affairs, and those results that the Student Affairs finds are sent to the EOC. The EOC then looks over these results that the Student Affairs sent over, and we forward those results to the judiciary for final certification and publishing. That is the entire scope. That's everything the EOC does during an election, just so that we have it on the public record, everybody understands it, and we understand what we're voting on. So I do want to make a few, I don't know if I'm on time.
You are, but you got 2 minutes.
Okay. So I do want to make a few quick points. The EOC does have a limited scope based off of everything that I just told you. We're primarily in charge of the elections process, not the elections policy. So although we oversee the policy, that policy is set in the bylaws by all of you. All the elections policy is now, as of this year, I believe, in our bylaws, which you check, you certify. So you're really checking me and my committee every time you pass an election packet, you change elections bylaws, etc. We have to follow those rules. Additionally, the EOC is still overseen by other branches. Of course, I mentioned the Senate and the packet. Of course, the judiciary hears all of the elections violations that are brought to the EOC. And since the EOC is subordinate to the judiciary can overrule any policy violation recommendation, because that's exactly what the EOC provides, is a recommendation on what should be done about a violation that's brought to us. The judiciary makes that final decision. I do have a few more points, but just to get to the big picture stuff, I've spoken to many of you. People are scared to apply to the EOC while this rule is in flux. I've spoken to many of you who say you're interested, you don't want to do it while we're in this period where you don't know if you're going to be able to participate in USG how you want to in the future if you join this committee. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it makes sense that people's USG careers, they want to make sure it can advance how they want, but especially in a case currently where we're in a special election that's about to be occurring actively, it doesn't make sense for us to not have a committee to oversee the elections that bring new members into our organization, especially when you consider that half of what we do is getting people to join the organization and getting people to stay. So if you can't have people oversee all the people who are trying to join our body, how can we ensure that we have a proper USG Senate body to do the things that we want to do? We can't, period. Additionally, USG just needs more young and active members. Since the EOC in its current form is largely advisory and it really just exists to take some of the elections grunt work off the back of Senate leadership and UConn's Division of Student Affairs, I honestly see this bill and this initiative as a great opportunity to get excited members of USG onto the EOC who want to make sure that the elected members of our body have done the work that they need to do so that they can join us, join our initiatives, and help improve UConn and the undergraduate student experience at UConn.
Chairperson, yeah, well, your time is next. Thank you. Any other people who would care to discuss this motion? Senator Kaplan.
As a sponsor of the bill, I'd just like to quickly follow up by saying, like, there's been a lot of debate on this already, and I feel like there doesn't need to be much more. I think everything that's been said has been said, and I'd just like to point out that, like, there's, like, literally one person on the committee, and I feel like that's a slight problem, and I feel like this would very much help that problem. So, yeah, I yield my time to the chair.
Deputy Speaker Douglas.
I'll keep my remarks very brief. Frankly, I enjoy being a senator. I enjoy participating in USG. And as the rules currently are, I wouldn't be able to do that if I served on the EOC. The EOC needs people, and I would be more than willing to serve on the EOC. But I won't do it if it means that I can't run for anything ever again. And this legislation would correct that. You just can't sit on there and run at the same time, which, in my opinion, makes sense. With that, I will yield to the chair.
Points of discussion. Senator Martino, you said something, but you made some sort of thing?
I don't know what kind of most of the personal participation.
Speakers or sponsors?
Senator Messina, can you turn your flag green so I can spell your last name?
Do you have a motion? So you want a motion to the previous question? Motion to the previous question. Is that a second? Second goes to Mr. Reynolds. Again, you heard this. I feel like you know what a motion to the previous question is, right? All those in favor of moving to the previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? One for Senator Dundal. Any of this chair, the ayes have it. Motion carries. So now we will vote on the bill as a whole. All those in favor of passing. Point of information. No. You absolutely. You absolutely support. Make sure you show that vote. All those in favor of a bill concerning an amendment to the USG bylaws, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? One for Senator Dundal. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. We'll now move into discussion. Is there any points that anything anyone would like to discuss? Seeing no discussion, we'll move into announcements. We have announced it.
This is the last time I'll make this announcement for a while, but we are having a special election. There is still time to let your friends know. We had several people who came by to trick or treat today, put their names in the ring for the special election. The form that we had sent out to the full Senate that I think Josh sent last week, or the speaker sent last week in the caucus email, I will send out the information to people via that form again about 1 hour after Senate ends. So if anyone comes to mind, take this chance. You can do it right now to recommend someone, and I will get that information to them. I'll let them know which constituencies they're eligible to run in, and how to get involved in USG if they say don't want to run an election or be a senator. The second thing is, well, actually, it doesn't matter. I'll yield back to the chair.
Senator Glass.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All right, can anyone guess what's tomorrow night?
Game night.
Wow. Thank you. I was actually going to make a joke about how it's my game night, how it's going to be my birthday, and then it's really not. It's not my birthday. I was going to make a joke. And you all were okay. Thank you.
Right.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Good? Okay. I just want to say that we are starting a Husky Thunder for USG. I've sent out a couple emails about it already. If you are even just a little bit interested, come talk to me after, or fill out the form that I have sent out a couple times. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do fundraising events and stuff soon, so please reach out if you need anything like that. Thanks.
Senator Ty.
Hey good everybody. I just want to let you all know that on election day, PERG is hosting a party to the polls. It's going to be a great event. We're going to be supporting and not only just supporting and trying to get out the vote, also just celebrate democracy and celebrate us as voters. It's going to be a great event. If you're interested in signing up for the event and volunteering, there are a lot of opportunities to volunteer. Please come talk to me. If you need to check your schedule and want to see if you have some time, stop by the PERG office. The PERG office is Student Union 214. If you volunteer with us, we can give you a shirt. Pretty great shirts. So definitely make sure to either talk to me or come by, and thank you so much. Okay.
Next on the list, Senator Koppel.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say that I and Dr. Christine Wilson will be hosting restorative justice training on November 19th and 20th, and I will reach out to whoever I have to reach out to get these sign-up forms sent out to all of you, but I really recommend that you all sign up, considering you guys are all leaders on campus, and what this allows is it teaches you guys how to deal with conflict in the best way, in one of the best ways possible. And a little side note is that this course, if you were to get it anywhere else, would cost like $1,500, and we're lucky in that Dr. Wilson will be teaching it for free. And so if you can spare the time, we don't need like a ton of people, like we're capping it at like 20, so please sign up if you can. I'll be there. There'll be free food. It's like 8 to 4:30, so yeah, please show up, and then also vote. I'd like to follow that up. Vote, get your voices out there. I've registered a lot of people. Okay, thank you. I give my time.
Chairman Carroll.
I'll just say it from here, thanks for voting on my little spiel there, appreciate it. And now you can officially apply to be in the EOC. So send your letters of intent to EOC@USG.
Point of information. Technically, it's not approved yet. The president doesn't have to sign it. But
So there might be more drama, but talk to me if you're interested, because I'll add you to my secret list.
point of information. Where would we send letters of intent if you wanted to apply to the EOC?
Where would we send them?
To EOC@usg.uconn.edu. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Question?
Next on the list, Senator Ordino.
So normally we don't flow things that are too outside the organization decide, unless they're like very prevalent and affect a huge population. But so I don't know if any of you are familiar, but we can welcome captains. The application for that is live right now. Any of you, all of you are leaders. So if you're interested in helping freshmen during the first weekend here, like moving in, getting to know campus, the application is live. You can find that online on the website. I don't have the website with me, sorry. Also, right after this, if you are dressed up spookily, then stay for a picture. We're gonna have a big group picture. We'll take it with a phone or something. It's okay. And last but not least, I just want to applaud everyone who participated in the debate today. I I lost. It's okay. But thank you all, like everyone who, this probably just killed it, absolutely, but everyone who spoke up tonight against that bill that I proposed. Some amazing points, so much potential in this room right now. I'm really excited for the rest of the year.
All right, Deputy Speaker Douglas for the last one.
My apologies, I think I've done this every Senate. I've had announcements, then forgot about them, then remembered them, and so I had to come up twice. The first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to plug an NAACP initiative. It's vote in fives. That means take yourself and 5 of your friends to the polls. We're not going to have another Senate between now and then, so you won't hear my wonderful voice telling you that again. But make sure you vote, make sure your friends vote. Anyone you know who's eligible to vote, make sure they get out and do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, any other announcements? Seeing none, I'll move to adjourn by unanimous consent at 8:47 p.m.